Well, it's Showcase Sunday, hashtag Showcase Sunday today, and it's a rather different Showcase Sunday simply because of the current circumstances with the sad passing of Her Majesty, the Queen Elizabeth II. And I felt this week's Showcase Sunday was very important to bring the amazing Helen Goad, the anxiety slayer, to our Showcase Sunday to help and support not just our industry, but everybody out there at the moment through numerous elements, problems that are arising, and also triggers that are happening around the country. So, welcome, Helen. It is a different Showcase Sunday to normal. We're normally a happy Sunday, everybody. But please introduce yourself. Tell us who you are, what you do, and why you do it.
So, yes, I'm Helen, also known as the Anxiety Slayer. Why? Because that's my aim as a therapist, is to get people feeling calmer by removing anxiety. There is a lot of therapists out there that talk about managing anxiety, talking about learning ways to cope, ways to live with anxiety. For me, that's not what I want. I want my clients to actually be able to live an anxiety-free life. Yes, anxiety is absolutely an absolutely normal response, reaction to a threat. However, to feel anxious and uncomfortable for no reason, that's not normal. That's not normal at all. So yeah, that's my aim, is to get people feeling calm and removing anxiety. Just a quick background on me. I was a radiographer in another work life in the NHS, and after having children, I wanted to set up a business and got into the mental health world through my partner's mental health. A lot of therapists kind of begin therapy because of their own journey through mental health, but mine has been slightly different in the fact that I have lived with anxiety from, in a sense, an external point of view through my partner and what he's been through and what happened for him. Became a hypnotherapist, and then in the last, oh gosh, it's probably about 3 or 4 years now, I did a therapy called BWRT, which stands for Brainworking Recursive Therapy. And that really kind of ignited the anxiety side of things. And yeah, here I am now, funneling down and niching and working with people that suffer with anxiety, panic, fears, phobias, and the odd habit. So I do the odd quit smoking session and things like that as well. So yeah, that's a little bit about me.
That's amazing, thank you. And you alluded to there are lots of therapies out there. There's a massive amount of different people offering different skill sets, tools, techniques, etc. So, what makes you unique and different in what you do?
What I do is, well, BWRT itself is actually relatively new. In fact, it's really probably quite new if you compare it to something like hypnotherapy in the therapy world, in the fact that it was only, first lot of training was back in 2013. So it is really kind of quite relatively new. But what I love about it is the energy. Hypnotherapy is seen as sort of peaceful, tranquil, and relaxing, which obviously it is. Whereas the BWRT that I do is filled with energy, absolutely energy. It's energetic, it's encouraging, and it really is fun to do, as silly as that might sound. And it gets people moving forward really, really quickly. So people come to see me for a handful of sessions and we get them moving forward very quickly. Whereas when I was doing the hypnotherapy, I was seeing people for longer. So it's fast, it's effective, and it's dynamic is the therapy that I offer and that I use.
Excuse me. And long term, I'm guessing, when you've just mentioned that.
Long term, yes. And this is what, in a sense, can be terrible for me, because often I'll see clients for a handful of sessions and then I won't see them again, which is brilliant and fantastic. Not always great for the bank account, but hey, it's brilliant and fantastic in that sense. But I do find that clients will get in touch maybe a year, 18 months, even 2 years down the line and go, can I pop back and see you about this? Because this has happened in life and I could just do with a bit of help with it. And often the one session and they're off and they're away again, sort of a thing.
Wow.
So yeah, it is. Yeah, it is fantastic, and I do love it, and it is dynamic, and it is nothing. When I go through it with people, they all go, oh, "Wasn't expecting that." Wow, kind of a response, but definitely a calmness inside of them as well that is often instant after going through the session.
That's amazing. And it's interesting because I know I always ask what's relevant right now. What help can you give? What's relevant right now in the hospitality industry now and in the future? But I don't think it's just for the hospitality industry right now. I know the industry is going through a tough time, and they have been through a tough time for a very long time now. It's not something that is just a short amount of time. We've gone through a pandemic where we've had people who are normally surrounded by people locked up.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And also something I want to add about the pandemic, just very, very quickly, tiny biology lesson for a moment here. The part of our brain that actually responds to a threat is what I refer to as the yaw brain. It has lots of different names, but I keep it as simple, refer to it the yaw brain. It basically lives back of skull, right back there. But the yaw brain still works in a very primitive way, hence that's why I call it the yaw brain. And it is looking out for threat and for danger all the time within us. It's doing its job. Part of its job is survival. In fact, it has two roles, survival and procreation. It doesn't really care about anything else. So it is always looking out for danger. But if you think about the pandemic that we've just been through, you can't see it. Our old brain works on our senses, what we can hear, what we can see, what we can feel, what we can sense, what we can taste, what we can smell, all that sort of senses. It works on all of those senses. We cannot use our senses when it comes to to COVID because we can't see it, we can't smell it, we can't hear it coming. There's nothing kind of going on, and I think a lot of people's anxiety shot up. Yes, the media and all that was going on, but our brain is now running away from something it can't hear, see, sense, taste, smell, or anything. So hence, it kind of becomes, in a sense, oversensitive to what's happening and what's kind of going
Yeah.
on. And
Yeah.
very much, if you are someone that is that sort of person that loves being out there, being in amongst it, really having a great time, socializing, all that sort of a thing, you're going to be like a caged animal
Yeah.
when you're stuck in what's happening. So a massive flip of life going from, yes, the stress, but feeding on that stress and possibly really enjoying that stress in some situations to, oh my goodness me, I can't even leave the house. I can't do things. So a massive, massive change for people in the hospitality industry. I talked to a lady before jumping on this, and that's one thing she said. She says, it's full on. You're in it. It's great. It's amazing. It's fantastic. And it's probably feeding off the energy of everything that's going on to, yeah, being stuck at home.
And then the flip side of that is being stuck at home, and then right, you're back in it, and you're fully full on. You've got occupancies 100%, a bit more, trying to fit everybody in. And then you haven't got the tools, the staff, and there's that fear kicking in. So and then we've gone through, lots of other issues like the cost of living going up. We've got cost of businesses. We've had a bit of a break when the VAT was lowered, and then it went back up. So it was like it all seemed to come in at once with a number of things, and staffing issues has become well, it's a constant crisis. Everybody you speak to, we're now at 190,000 plus people, jobs that are currently not taken in the industry, so vacant in the industry. So right now, we know that there are tough times going on. We know people are really struggling. So what can you do? What do you do that's relevant to not just the industry, but to everybody right now, especially since we lost our longest reigning monarch, who was an inspiration to every single one of us.
Yeah. No, it is. And at the end of the day, emotions, feelings, they can be changed. So, for example, if we have that worry of going back to work, for example, that is a feeling that's going on inside of us. It can be changed, it can be altered. If we have or even say, for example, a worry about maybe what some customers might say about something, because actually we're really struggling, we're possibly going to get a little bit more aggro from customers because things maybe aren't going quite as smoothly because our staffing isn't there, all that sort of a thing. That can all be changed. It's emotions. Yes, we can't change what's actually happening, but we can change the emotional response to what's happening and what's going on, so that actually that, oh, is this going to happen, is that going to happen, oh my goodness me, am I going to make it, am I going to get through this, oh, and whatever it's related to, whether it's the people that are actually dealing, you know, with the front line, well, on the front line, for a better way to put it, right the way up to the sort of the management levels of, oh, that feeling can be got rid of. And when that feeling is gone, what happens is, as I said before, with our old brain, that's our emotional brain it comes from. If it isn't reacting and responding in a way, then our day-to-day, what I refer to as our logical brain, it gets to work. So if we've got a situation that's going on that is a bit stressful, but we're not feeling that often our chests or our stomachs, then brain can kick in and go, right, I need to do this, I need to do that, and I need to do the other. So it gives everybody that ability that they know what to do. They've probably dealt with these sorts of things many, 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 many times. Unless you're completely new to things, they've probably dealt with something similar. And it's that, I know what I need to do, but by removing the emotions, it allows that brain to kick in and do the bits that need to be done. And you feel, I'm going to say, calmer. It might not be absolutely calm and flat as a, you know, as a wonderful tranquil lake kind of calmness, but you do not have that gets in the way of you performing in the way, and your staff performing in the way that they know how to do and what to do. And with the grief that's going on at the moment, it's huge, it's massive, and it's public, and we can't get away from it. We're struggling to be able to get away from it because it's everywhere. Everywhere we go, there's talk about it. It's all over the TV. It's everywhere. And when we have grief in our personal lives, we can actually step away from it. We can go home, for example, and sit on the sofa and watch TV and have that just downtime from what's happening and what's going on. But at the minute, it feels like we're absolutely sort of stuck in it. So particularly at the moment, my advice, just a very quick tip, is if you can, get out in nature. And I know, thankfully, we've got a lovely day here at the moment, and the weather's been a bit, you know, but we are kind of heading in towards the times where it isn't quite as nice. But if you can get out, even if it's just a bit of breath of fresh air, it's helpful. And sorry, just to add into that, from a hospitality point of view, you may not get much. You may be stuck in an office, stuck in a kitchen, stuck in a restaurant type area, or whatever that might be, or even in sort of cleaning bedrooms, all that sort of thing. You're not outside. You're in a situation where you're not necessarily going to be in as much natural light. And if you can find the time to have and enjoy some natural light, that can be really helpful and really beneficial.
It's very powerful, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's interesting you say that, because you just reminded me. I remember um you said something, I think you did something a few weeks ago, ready for children going back to school, because we hear a lot, and I've seen it in the industry where people make their own stories up before it's actually happened, and they've already decided what's going to happen. I'm thinking, where did that come from? And you said, just really focus on um say the wind, or focus on the birds, or focus on the trees, or focus on the grass. And it's just, being present is the biggest gift that you give to yourself. And I'll never forget you saying that, because I passed that on to my children going back to school, and
Yeah.
my daughter starting secondary school for the first time, and it was incredibly powerful. She didn't have that story that all her friends had, about how bad it was going to be, because it was a brand new school and it was really emotive and the fear kicking in. And we could do that every day, couldn't we?
Oh, absolutely. When we are using our senses, the only place we can be is in the present. And that is the only place we can actually live. Don't get me wrong. Yes, our brain can run forward and yes, it can run backwards. But when we're in discomfort, especially anxiety, we're often living in the future. What if, what if, what if, what if? When we're using our senses, we are bringing ourselves, as I said, right into the present moment. And again, this goes back to that old brain of ours. Our old brain uses our senses to be aware of what's happening, what's going on, and to make, in a sense, to make sense of the world. So when we're using our senses, the old brain is absolutely kicked into action, and it's going, yeah, I can hear that. And it doesn't even run, it's not running off into the future then, if that makes sense. And what it is, I'm kind of trying to keep it really simple because I don't want to run on for too much, run off on a tangent with too much sort of timing and things. But very, very simply, as I said, our old brain is referred to as our old brain because it's a primitive part of our brain. So if we go back to the cavemen type times for a moment, and we've got caveman, he's off out hunting and he's on high alert in those moments. He's on high alert, A, because he's after food, obviously, but B, he could also be food.
Yeah.
So he's what he can hear, yes, what he can hear, what he can see, even that sense of something isn't quite right inside. All of him is absolutely wired into that moment. He's not thinking about the past. He's not thinking about what's going on in the future. He's aware of everything in that moment because he needs to survive. Yeah. Whether that's get food or whether that's just to survive, either or. So again, it's literally like you're doing that. You're bringing yourself back into that present moment of everything that's going on around you. And yes, using our senses absolutely and very, very simply does that. So a really good one is 3 things that you can hear, 3 things that you can see, and 3 things that you can move. So whether it's fingers, whether it's toes, whether it's head, arms, whatever it is. So, just they call it the rule of 3. And as I said, it's quite an easy one to remember. 3 things you can hear, 3 things you can see, and 3 things you can move. Very, very simple. And again, a one that you can do, like you said, on the way to work, walking from the car into work, being aware of your surroundings, bringing yourself right into that moment. So yeah, it can be very helpful, very powerful.
It's a good point, that, because if I'm thinking about the day, I just when you said about thinking about your surroundings, I have been known to not notice things if I've been going on a journey, simply because my mind's elsewhere. I'm getting ready for the day, or I'm researching, and I'm focusing on something completely different. And it's interesting. It's really interesting because we all do elements of that, and it'd be great. And as always, we ask about what are the 5 top tips. We've probably just had 3 of them. So what are your 5 top tips, Helen?
So get out in nature. Get it, and if you can't get out in nature, but if you can spend a few minutes stood at a door with a bit of fresh air on your face, whatever it is, wherever your scenarios are, situation is, if you can grab that, brilliant. And if you can allow your staff to do that as well, if you're in a sense sort of the managerial roles, and you allow and kind of, because if you can allow them that time out, you're going to get more productivity in the long run out of it, sort of a thing. So yeah, as we said, rule of 3, out in nature is a really, really, really good one. And if it's okay with you, Alison, I'm going to do that little kind of technique that I mentioned about. Is it okay to do it now? Or do you want to hang on and do it?
Yeah, no, this is really interesting because right now it's so relevant anyway for the whole country, but it's also very, very relevant for the hospitality industry. And Helen's very kindly offered to give us a gift that we'll keep giving in sharing one of her tools with us. So this, this is really important. So do you want to do that now?
I'll do it now if that's okay
Yeah,
with you. So
okay.
literally, all I want you to do is I want you to just make yourself comfortable, whether you're sat in your chair or whatever it is, just make yourself comfortable. When you're ready, I'll just get you to close your eyes for me. You don't have to if you don't wish to, but closing your eyes takes away one of our senses, which helps us to imagine and focus our attention a little bit more. And all I want you to do is just to literally be aware of your breathing. Just be aware of every breath in and every breath out. And as you're breathing in, allow yourself to breathe in a sense of calmness. And if you can, breathe in right down into your belly. Really breathe right down into your belly if you can. If that's not comfortable, that's okay. But if you can, breathe right down into your belly. And as you breathe out, just imagine yourself breathing out any tension, any worries, any stress, any anxieties, breathing them out and breathing them away. And as you're just allowing your breathing to be calm, to be gentle, to be comfortable, I just want you in your mind to just drift to a comfortable place. And it might be somewhere that you know and have been many times, or it might be somewhere completely new and completely made up, but just allow your mind to take you to somewhere comfortable. It could be on a beach, it could be on top of a hill or a fell. In fact, it could even be sat in your front room in your favourite chair. Just allow yourself to be somewhere comfortable. It could be a field in the middle of nowhere. But as you're here in this comfortable place, I want you to allow yourself to absorb all the positive energy from this place. So if you're outdoors, imagine the warmth of the sun and it penetrating deep inside of you. But just allow yourself to absorb the positive energy that's around you in your comfortable place. And as you're there in your comfortable place, what I'd like you to do is I'd like to imagine that you've got a shield around you. Now, this could be a shield, a little bit like Captain America style shield, or it could be literally like a bubble around you. Go with whatever feels right for you, because whatever feels right for you is absolutely right for you. And this shield around you protects you. It protects you and it holds all the positive energy inside of you. And the amazing power that this shield has is that it allows any negative energy to just bounce off and bounce away. Literally, it just bounces off and bounces away. Yes, you're still aware of everything that's happening and everything that's going on, but that negative energy in that moment, you don't absorb it. It just bounces off and bounces away. The only thing, and I mean this, the only thing that gets through your shield is positive energy. Positive energy absolutely penetrates through and inside of you, and that's amazing. The laughs, the giggles, the smiles, the things that you enjoy doing, all that positive energy absolutely gets through. Negativity bounces off and bounces away. So just a very quick example. Just example that maybe you've got somebody that has said something to you and it was uncomfortable and it wasn't a very nice thing. Whether they meant it or not, it doesn't matter. It might have been a moment of complete stress and just this garble all came out of them and you were the one that, bless you, you were the one that got it in the neck, so to speak. But imagine that moment now with your shield and all of those negative words, they just bounce off and bounce away. You don't absorb them. You don't let them through. They literally just bounce off and bounce away. And that is fantastic. You have created yourself an amazing shield that is there to protect you, and it's there all the time. Always there. Whatever you're doing, it's there. And if you find yourself in a situation where you may want to strengthen your shield for whatever reason, you can do that. You might find yourself going into a situation that you feel you need a bit of extra protection for whatever reason. You can turn it up. And that turning it up might just be a thought. Or there might be a dial somewhere that you can literally, in your mind, just turn it up. Turn that strength up. You have that ability now to use this. As I said, it's always there. You can always strengthen it if you ever feel you need to. And all I want you to do now is just, once again, be aware of your breathing. And just allow yourself now to drift all the way back here to the here and now, knowing that you have got your shield there protecting you all the time. And then when you're ready, you can open your eyes. It's just a really simple tool that is set up there, and it's done and it's there. And as I said, you can strengthen it if you need to, but it's always there in the background, and it can be used for loads and loads of things.
Wow, thank you. It is very interesting because we've got as I think the whole world has issues with stress, anxiety, alcohol abuse, drug abuse, anger. I'm feeling quite relaxed now, so I'm struggling to put two words together.
I just wanted to, you mentioned anger, and I just want to touch on anger because anger is, I feel, it's one of those emotions that we're taught from quite a young age that anger is naughty. Shouldn't get angry. Oh no, we shouldn't get angry. You know, you think of kids, bless them, you know, tantrums and all that sort of a thing. And they're expressing anger and they're getting it out and they're getting rid of it, which is great because it actually leaves that anger there in that moment and they aren't carrying it on for the rest of the day, sort of a thing. But, you know, if we've got a child that's creating, you know, holy hell in the middle of a supermarket, we're like, oh God, no, get me out of here, because all the embarrassment kind of kicks in and people are going to think I'm a terrible mum or dad, or, you know, all that sort of thing that kind of goes on. So we kind of do that, come on, you know, and so they end up sort of being, well, yeah, they kind of learn anger's negative. And don't get me wrong, excessive anger is not good, obviously. Please don't get me wrong. However, I strongly believe that if we as human beings didn't get angry, then I don't think we'd be here now. I think we would have been extinct many, many, many moons ago. You know, we wouldn't have survived to where we are now. So just to say that anger is an absolutely normal and natural response and reaction. And if you do find that you are, dare I say it, an angry person, then yes, there's things that can absolutely be done to help that. But also allow yourself to be okay to be angry and find a way to vent it. During the pandemic, something that I kind of mentioned to a lot of people was the fact that we didn't get those little rants, those little vents sort of throughout the day. You know, for example, the classic one is trying to get the kids out the door to school. You know what I mean? You know, the shoes have gone missing, their bags somewhere, the book bag, well, no idea where on earth that is. And you get to school and you're like, there's another mum there, and you go, it's taken us half an hour to get out the door, you know, kind of thing. We've been up since 6 o'clock, you know, all that. But what we do in that moment is we vent it. We get rid of that energy and we can crack on with the rest of our day. And we've left that energy there. And that person's listened to it and gone, yeah, I know exactly what you mean, because I've had that this morning as well. Or yesterday was like that for me. And it gets it out. It gets it off your chest. So it's like, in a sense, a mini therapy session.
Yeah, and it's like that in the industry. You talk about everything. That's the one thing we live and breathe. The you know, everything that we do in the hospitality industry. And if we're having a bit of a tough time where everything doesn't seem to be going right that day, then you're discussing it together. You're, you know, but if someone, I think what I want to allude to as well is being aware and actually seeing that, oh, they're actually reacting very different to how they're always reacting, and it's how to notice, you know, if things aren't right. So you know,
you're dead right, because sorry to butt in, but you're dead right, because if someone is reacting to something in a way they don't normally, if something's not right, whether that's someone suddenly getting excessively angry and you go, that's not normal, or even maybe getting a lot more upset than they ever have done or ever would, then again, it's a sign that something isn't right. Don't get me wrong, we all know, I'm going to say naturally angry people, and I'm not saying that's a negative because it absolutely isn't. And we all know people like that, and we let them kind of have that rant and they get it out of the system and they move on, you know, kind of thing. And that's okay. But we also know those people that would never ever cry at certain times, and suddenly they're getting really upset. And I think it's to be aware and look out for the differences in people, if you see something that isn't quite right, isn't quite normal for them, then there's going to be something behind that that isn't right. And I'm going to rude here, sorry gentlemen that are maybe watching this, women are more likely to pick up on it, and this has not been a negative, this has been in a sense a bit more sort of factual and biology related, because women see a range of emotions. Men, sorry, don't mean to be rude, they just see one end or the other, if that sort of makes sense. They don't necessarily see the range. So it might be that women are going to pick up on these things possibly a bit more than the gentlemen out there are. And so don't give the men a hard time about it. It's their brains are wired up completely differently. So they don't see the range that us women do. So again, that's maybe something for gentlemen to be aware of, but also for women to be aware of and go,
I was just going to say that's something I never knew, that, you know, the difference there. So that's interesting, because they probably haven't picked up
exactly
on what's going on. And I think as a team in the industry, it's being aware and actually communicating on a positive way and seeing how we can help and support everyone, because it might be that suddenly somebody looks like they've had a few too many the night before, and you think that's unlike them, or suddenly it becomes a habit, or
maybe
they're acting
even things like
differently.
smoking, sorry to butt in, even if like smoking, you know, suddenly someone's coming out and going out for a cigarette break. Well, they never used to normally smoke. What's that all about, sort of a thing? Is there something going on behind that? If they started smoking because it's a stress reliever, even though it isn't, but they see it as sort of.
Or they're doing it more.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. You know, it's trying to just be aware of what people are, dare I say it, normally like. You know, none of us are normal, but you see a change in someone that is standing out and that doesn't feel right and it doesn't look right, then there's possibly something kind of going on. And the thing is as well, you might notice something in somebody, you might have a word with someone and go, have you noticed that? Have you picked that up on that? Because you might not be the right person to go actually speak to that person as well, if that sort of makes sense. Especially when you've got a team, you might kind of have someone you go, oh, Bob, he'll be the one that will be able to speak to that person.
Who's got the connection.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
That's important as well, because sometimes if that connection isn't there, then
it can be looked at as judgmental, and that's the last thing you need.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, and you know, when you've looked at examples where you've helped and supported people with different elements, which could be a range of all those things that I've just mentioned, that we might have a problem, but not just in our industry, in every industry. And I think the pandemic brought that on even more so. So we've just mentioned quite a few different examples that potentially are going on in any industry. It's not just in the hospitality industry. I mean, since the pandemic, that seems to be a more prevalent. Things have increased and become more. More people are becoming more aware, but also I think it's highlighted, and mental health has been highlighted quite significantly. And what do you do? Have you got examples that you have helped and supported people?
There was a lady I worked with at some point within the pandemic. I can't remember exactly when. Brain doesn't go backwards very well. But yeah, and she was a teaching assistant. And you can imagine that was a weird time for schools and things, because they were closed, but they were open for, you know, for the key workers, I think they were called, and all that sort of a thing. But she was in a situation where one of her children had bad asthma. So you can imagine the kind of the worry around it of what's going on. And we did some work that basically removed the uncomfortable feelings so that she could actually go back to work. And again, it's that fear of the fear, as we sort of talk, the what if that run away. And we worked on that sort of a thing. And she went back to work, and I got a message off her, I think it was either later that day or the next day, whatever it was, saying, my return to it was great. Thank you very much for your help. It was nowhere near as bad as I'd thought it was going to be, you know, kind of a thing. So removing the uncomfortable feelings allowed her to go to work a lot more comfortably. So that's one kind of example from definitely from sort of the pandemic side of things. But just a very quick example that kind of highlights how our imagination can be a bit of a git at times. So there was a lady I worked with for a fear of flying, bear with me. And this lady had never flown before, never stepped foot on a plane. And I was kind of like, how is this going to go? Because what we're going to work on? She's never flown. She hadn't had bad turbulence, bad landing. There was none of that sort of thing going on. So I kind of said to her, I says, what is your brain telling you is going to happen when you get on that plane? And she said, this is going to sound really silly, she said, but she says, you know the films when the plane is dropping out the sky, wings ripping off, people getting sucked out the windows. And she says that is literally what her brain is telling her was going to happen if she gets on that plane. So you can imagine it is not going to want to fly in any way, shape, or form. But in that situation, we actually worked on her imagination. And she did. I actually, just by chance, I saw her a few weeks later. She got back off holiday, and I saw her in Morrison's, of all places, shopping. And she came up and she went, oh, I was like a kid in a sweet shop. It was amazing. The flight was fantastic. Time, and she's done lots and lots of flights since then. But what I just wanted to highlight with that was, in some situations it's our imagination that's running away on us. So as much as some people kind of go, yeah, but how on earth am I going to this, and that's never going to happen, and the other's never going to happen, if our emotional brain gets a hold of something and goes, this is what's going to happen if you do this, then those feelings, those uncomfortable feelings, are going to be there, and they're going to be triggered.
So when people have taken to drink, drugs, smoking heavily, they're all distractions, aren't they?
They're all distractions. Ways to cope.
So and have you got examples where, not examples as such, because I know every ounce of your work is confidential, but where you can help and support people to deal with whatever the distraction they're distracting against?
Yeah, you're right. And it's that, well, even food is another good one as well, isn't it? Using food to make us feel comfortable, whatever that might be. It's using something to make you feel comfortable, to take away the uncomfortable feeling of what's happening, what's kind of going on. So let's say, for example, there was a lady I worked with a little while back, and it was that she said, if I can get past 6 o'clock in the evening, I don't pour myself a glass of wine. She says, I'm all right, I can get past it. But if I can, but if I can't, and it would probably start, I think, about sort of 5:30 sort of thing, it would start, and she'd get that niggle of want. And it actually ended up turning to a little bit more of a habit than a need any longer. To one point, it was, I need that glass to settle me down, to calm me down, and all that sort of thing. And as I said, it ended up turning into a habit. So she didn't see herself as an alcoholic or anything in that sense, but she knew that she'd used alcohol to help a situation. That situation had actually stopped, but now it had become habit. But again, if we come back to, and if she'd come to see me when that stressful situation was happening, and we took the uncomfortable, stressful feelings away, there's no need to go for the drink when she got home, sort of a thing. So hopefully that sort of makes sense. It's a case of taking away that to what's happening, what's going on, taking away, and also, if there's a specific sort of situation that continues through, it might be a certain part of someone's job that they really don't like, and that is causing this discomfort inside of them. And if that's often maybe a daily thing, or even a weekly thing, and you don't kind of do anything with that stress, it's going to accumulate every time. It's like that kind of grow. Yeah, exactly.
Concreting. And that's the thing that needs to be awareness of, because strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, SWOT analysis, and what motivates and demotivates people, but being really open and honest about it. Because if you're a head chef, for example, and you don't like managing people, it's a bit of a tough time being a head chef if that's part of the issue. Yes. So it's about how to deal with that, and how to train and develop that person so that they enjoy managing people as part of their role in the industry, that they're not actually being triggered by anything else around it. Yeah.
And often in situations, sometimes in that sort of a situation, it can actually go right back to being back in school, something that happened somewhere that, you know, you did something, you spoke up. I don't know, maybe I'm just trying to think of a sporting event or something that you were doing, and you were maybe the team captain that day, and actually you got shouted down by somebody. You know, that could still be there, triggering all the way in the future of being in that role now. And the your brain doesn't have a sense of time. So if it's triggered by something and it's taken back to being in that school scenario or situation, then yeah, that it might be something like that that's actually holding them back. They're actually really good at what they do and doing it. It's the feelings that are stopping them from being really good at it.
Absolutely, absolutely. So if somebody was sat on the fence here, they obviously have got all the tools. We've had tools, we've had tips, you've had examples, you know. If somebody was sat here thinking, what do I do? Can they get in touch with you, and how would they get in touch with you?
Yeah, of course you can. I'm across social media, so you can find me on Facebook, you can find me on LinkedIn, and you can find me on Instagram. Maybe I've got its name. So Instagram, I'm the Anxiety Slayer, Helen. I think yes. Facebook, if you put in hypnotherapy works, you'll find me. LinkedIn, Helen Goad, and you'll find me under that there. My email address is helen at hypnotherapy-cumbria.co.uk, so feel free to pop me an email. But yeah, I think that's probably the best place to sort of find me.
Brilliant. And we'll put all your links at the end of the interview. And absolutely, I mean, we're very blessed that we've had such amazing tools that you've shared today that can help and support anybody who's going through any difficulty right now, or any areas where they've got anxiety or stress, where they can actually just implement it. And if you're struggling with actually breathing, just bear with it, because I know when I first started meditating, I thought, what on earth this? My mind would be going over there. But it's just practice. Practice helps it to work, and keep practicing.
One more tip.
Go on.
Belly breathing. When you breathe in, a lot of people talk about deep breathing, and it's fine, absolutely fine. When you're deep breathing in your chest, your body is getting ready to do something. Because if you think about going out for a run, not a runner at all, but if you think about if you're going out for a run, you're using your chest to get the oxygen where it needs to get to. So it's like the doing breathing, if that sort of makes sense. But if you direct it down into your belly and you put your hand on your belly, best way to do it is to lie down, your hands on your belly, and watch your belly go up and down as you breathe. It doesn't have to be, sorry, something to add in, sorry, I've gone for tangent again. If you do suffer from anxiety, 9 times out of 10 you breathe very shallow. It actually affects your breathing. You breathe very shallow. So if you start doing the deep breathing, you can actually end up making yourself feel quite dizzy. So just to be aware of that as well. But as I said, if you direct it down into your belly, that is stimulating the nerve, the vagus nerve. When you stimulate the vagus nerve, it's a positive, not a negative. When you stimulate the vagus nerve, you are stimulating the rest and digest mode. And if you're in rest and digest mode, you're definitely not in fight, flight, or freeze mode. So yes, belly breathing is a good one. Sorry.
That's interesting, and it's very good that if somebody's shallow breathing normally, just to be very aware, sit down or lie down, and make sure that they're in a safe environment to do so.
Well, yeah, if you come across someone that is struggling with something like anxiety or a panic attack or something like that, yes, it's easier said than done. So they might not be able to do it. But yes, if you can get to just direct it down into their belly, and don't worry about the depths of it. You talk about deep breathing. Don't worry too much about that. It's sometimes easier to just direct what they can do into their belly, rather than trying to do really deep breathing. So yeah, sorry.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. Thank you, Helen. It's been an honour and pleasure. And I hope, that's helped and supported you all on this hashtag Showcase Sunday. And may I wish you a very good Sunday and all the very best as we go through the morning of Her Majesty tomorrow, Monday, for her funeral service. So thank you very much, Helen. If you want to get in touch with Helen, even if you want Oh, a big question actually before we go, is can people get in have therapy online, or do they have to do it in person?
Oh, online. I do online. I do in person, and a lot of people will do that. Oh, well, does it work better in person than online? It doesn't actually make any difference. It doesn't make any difference whether it's online or in person. And just very quickly, I do offer a free up to 30 minutes chat if anybody has any questions and they're kind of not sure whether or not I'm the right person for them, because rapport is really, really important. So I do offer that as well if anybody wants to, yeah, just have a quick chat or and ask a couple of questions. That's fine.
Brilliant. And if there was a group of properties who are wanting a help and advice to set up systems, in the fact of awareness, you're quite okay
Mm.
to do that as well. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. I'll help out whenever and wherever I can. Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you, Helen. All the very best, everybody, and happy Showcase Sunday. Take care.
Take care, everybody.